Hello, listeners. The following podcast episode contains discussions on films with potential spoilers, and some topics and themes discussed may be alarming and/or triggering. If you feel you may be affected, please feel free to skip this episode and check out other ones instead. With that in mind, please enjoy this episode.
Greetings and salutations. You've arrived at After Dark with Super Marcey. Join your host, Super Marcey, as she brings you a show that's a little darker, sexier, and edgier, with sexploitation cinema, topical discussions, and all things that happen after dark. Listener discretion is advised, as this podcast will feature coarse language and adult themes. Remember, what happens after dark stays after dark.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to After Dark with Super Marcey podcast. I am your host, Super Marcey, and I'm going to talk normally now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in for this episode. It's going to be probably a very sleazy episode, but we'll get to that shortly. I'm joined by a returning guest and one of my good friends. He co-hosts Indicator Cast and Imprint Cast. So welcome back, John Mathews. Hello.
Hello. Yes, thank you for having me, Marcy. Very excited to be here. Love this podcast, so it's an honor to join. And looking forward to a double of sleaze tonight.
Oh, thank you very much. And I'm very happy that I somehow convinced you to watch like 5.5 hours of films to prep for this podcast.
No, it's fine. Like I said, there's one of them I really do like and quite familiar with, so... it wasn't a struggle at all, especially the entertainment value of these films. So yeah, it was worth it.
It is a very interesting, double feature. And for me, one I had not seen, one I had seen several times. So very, very interesting. So yes, for those listening, and if you didn't read the the episode title, we are talking about the controversy of Tinto Brass with Salon Kitty from 1976 and Caligula from 1979, I believe. I'm just going to assume that's correct.
Yes.
For those who might not be aware, Tinto Brass is an Italian filmmaker who probably very well known for how sleazy his films are.
Yes, or some would argue, no, it's classy, classy sleaze.
Yeah, it's classy sleaze. So we'll discuss Salon Kitty first. And this is a film that I had not seen, but I'd heard about. So I'll do I'm just using Letterboxd because it's easier. I'll read a quick synopsis, who is in the cast, and we'll go from there. So, of course, directed by Tinto Brass, who also edited the movie. And the synopsis from Letterboxd is depraved, decadent, damned. Kitty runs a brothel in Nazi Germany where the soldiers come to relax. Recording devices have been installed in each room by a power-hungry army official who plans to use the information to blackmail Hitler and gain power himself. A girl named Margarita discovers the little ploy and, with Kitty's help, plans to take on the dangerous task of exposing the conspiracy. The film stars Helmut Berger. I'm saying all these names wrong. I'm just putting that out there because I can't pronounce anything. Ingrid Thulin, Teresa Ann Savoy, John Steiner, Sarah Sperati, Maria Miki, Rosemary Lind, John Ireland, and many others. So, Salon Kitty. This is pretty much like a lot of people would put this in the category of Nazi exploitation, and I can see why, but probably one of the better made of those kinds of films. So clearly there's a bit of a trigger warning if you are not into Nazis and World War II and human atrocities and all that kind of thing. Be warned and maybe don't watch the movie. John, I believe you have seen this before. Whereas
Yes, that is
this
correct.
is my first time. So initially, what were your thoughts on Salon Kitty?
Yeah, I'm holding it here. I have a Blue Underground DVD from many years ago. I tracked it down because after seeing Caligula, I was obsessed with Tinto Brass. Like, what else has this guy done? And so yeah, I tracked it down. And first time watching it, I was it was a while ago, and it looked probably over maybe 15 years ago, and little mixed on it at first, and I've grown to appreciate it a lot over the years. I guess because I didn't know what to think of it at the time, and I'm looking back now, and I originally just didn't think it was just meh. Like, I thought it was okay, but upon revisits and this last watch, I've really begun to appreciate it more because of its I guess outrageousness. I forgot how out there it really is, but yeah, I originally was a bit mixed, but now I like it quite a fair bit.
Yeah. I actually remember like that release from Blue Underground, and I think that sort of really put the film on my radar a bit more because I had heard of it but didn't really know what it was about. I didn't bother looking it up or anything, and that kind of caught my attention. But here we are. I only watched it for the first time yesterday as of recording the episode, and I was not really sure what to expect. Just that I knew it took place in Nazi Germany, and there was a brothel involved. But I actually didn't realize this was based on a book of a real story. So pretty much something similar to this actually happened. So yeah, makes these two double features kind of, I guess, historical fiction-ish, I guess an interpretation of what happened. And yeah, like I've seen some other Tinto Brass films, but I don't think in my lifetime have I seen so much dick in the span of like 35 minutes. I was not expecting that.
Yes, it was. There's a lot. It's like Mr. Garrison's book, The Land of Floppy Penises.
Yeah. Like on South Park, I think it's where they have George R. Martin, and all he does is sings wieners, 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 wieners. That's literally what I was thinking. I'm like, there is so much wiener on display, and it kind of got me thinking. I'm like, so is the like subliminal messaging that the Nazis are just dicks? Because that's what I took away from it.
Could be.
It could be.
And it's very in your face, like literally a lot of close-ups. And,
Yeah, it's very graphic, and I think part of the point of the film is to show a lot of shocking imagery, and maybe I don't know if it's more shocking now than it was back then, but it's very, not only is it shocking, it's very sad. And sad in the way of how it's kind of portrayed as well, because we see sort of like the inside of what these Nazi officers are doing, and they've collected all of these women.
Oh, yeah.
Because yes, this movie totally loves women, loves everybody.
Respect.
Yes. So yeah, they clearly want to infiltrate brothels using the women as sex workers, so they can, get all the inside knowledge on their own people, on their own officers. So not the worst idea in the world, because I'm guessing people talk in those locations. But they, this is the Nazis, so they want the perfect, women for the job. So they put them through these tests, and it's very graphic. They tell the women to take their clothes off, tell the men to take their clothes off, and then were in like these weird observation rooms.
Oh yes.
And
yeah.
I was like, okay, I get you're trying to go for shock value, like testing them to see what they'll do in the brothel situation. So they have a little person, they have an amputee, but then I'm like, okay, like I get where they're trying to go with it. It's, for me, I'm like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. I don't see people like that as being any different. I think what hits hard is when you see the man in the striped pajamas who's clearly a Jewish prisoner in a concentration camp, and that kind of thing. It's just, that to me is so sad and shocking. Just the honestly, the treatment of people all over. Like, this film just kind of, it doesn't hold back into just the disgustingness of that era in, like, around Nazi Germany, really. It's so not easy to talk about, but it's just the way everything is shown. Like, it really doesn't hold back, right?
No, exactly. And those going into expecting and the funny thing was, this was kind of marketed in the US and stuff as like a sexy, sexploitation film, but going in and seeing this imagery and stuff would really take you off guard, because you were not just thinking some sleazy sort of cheap and nasty, sort of sexploitation, but it has got a lot to say. And you're right, those scenes looking through the cells and the sickly looking Jewish man and the dwarf and even that big beast type creature.
Yeah, the big beastly man.
Yeah, which is straight out of like sci-fi or something like this.
Yeah, he looked almost like a caveman Neanderthal.
Just chasing after her and like a piece of meat. It's really quite shocking, and that's the thing I don't get. Like, this film, like, I think it has definitely got something to say, and Tinto was trying to express something. I think it goes back to Italian films of this time had it. A lot of them dealt with fascism, a lot of films. And I think because Italy was such a, post-World War II, was such a fascist regime, kind of rose in power, a lot of films dealt with it in the 70s. And I think this film is one of them that has a lot to say about fascism and Nazis and just, that power. So, there's in terms of Nazi exploitation, like, there's the high end, like the Night Porter, and that is considered like an art house film. And then there's the low end, like Gestapo's Last Orgy, which is just trash. I mean, this falls somewhere in the middle, but definitely has a lot to say about these people and how horrible they are. And I think it works. I mean, some would say it is exploitation, is borderlining with, like you said, all the imagery, but he does get his point across.
Yeah. I think it's kind of, it goes on this very fine line of actually having something to say, but almost being preoccupied with a lot of the more shocking elements, which, this is what we're here for, to discuss it. I mean, the film kind of opens where we see Kitty at her brothel, and it's this very grand, like, there's live performances, and she's like, at the beginning, it's a very, very weirdly lyrical song, and she's doing that kind, I think, is it like the Victoria, the half lady, half man kind of costume, and already there it's this is the kind of film where it's not, how do I even express it, like, it's not saying what her performance is a bad thing or nothing like that. It's just there. It's this representation of, because they have all sorts in the brothel, and as the film progresses and we see like the Nazi soldiers, what their plan is, and they pretty much use Kitty to run a brothel while not telling her what they're actually doing. So we get to know her kind of as a character. We get to know some of the Nazi officers, and as it mentioned in that description, one of the girls, Margarita, who we will later see in Caligula. So it's a very, it tells this story while it has all this imagery, and you look at kind of the 70s, and films from Italy definitely dealt a lot with the fascism, and that was coming out of, post World War II, Mussolini, all of that kind of stuff. So it does make sense as to they're finding their voices to kind of condemn this stuff, but it's also hard to, if you kind of look at this on the surface where you're thinking it's just this sexy sleazy movie, I think you kind of miss some of what was trying to be said. And as I mentioned, it kind of gets mixed up in more of that visual shock factor as well as just all the genitals on display. Like, it really goes through everything. It shows you when they bring Kitty into their set-up brothel and getting all the girls ready. Like, it shows you a close-up of, let's trim some bush. Let's put a wig on her front. It's all just like this big production of everything. And it's it's very bizarre because that is more like this playfulish scene, but just previously we've seen some very horrible things, and that's kind of how the movie goes in a weird way, if that makes sense. Like, we see, and I don't know if necessarily it was trying to relate something like a BDSM to, you have to be into that kind of stuff to be a Nazi or something. I don't know. But what's the main, the Wallenberg, his kind of power play with Margarita through the film is weirdly interesting, and he feels like he's got this power over anybody, and he wants to basically be in charge like Hitler. And you see that power dynamic change through the film as she works out what's going on. But I feel like almost what the vision of how these people think is they don't give a shit about those supposed core beliefs. All they really wanted was absolute power.
Yep.
And I feel like that was the embodiment of that character. And that was kind of what he was trying to say. But ultimately he doesn't, because the ladies were just a little bit too clever for him.
Yep.
And so they should be.
Definitely. No, she is his weakness. And like you said, that changes to the point where, we skip ahead, obviously we'll get to the point where she is his downfall, essentially. Which reveals too much. But yeah, no, I think you're right. The brothel, the Salon Kitty brothel. It's a place where I guess all types of perversions, and I guess it's a free place to be whoever they want. And I think it's interesting because obviously Madame Kitty, is played by Ingrid Thulin, who's she's like a renowned, like, worked with Bergman. She's like this Swedish art house, like, amazing actress. And that's what makes this film different. The fact that you've actually got these really incredible actors and actresses in this film, it adds a level of class to it. But I think, it's quite interesting because she's really there. She's not aware of the spying going on at first, but I guess, once again, how this film treats women, I'm not really sure, but it seems like she's quite a strong character, the Madame Kitty, because she actually looks out for the girls, especially a scene later on where, Marguerite, shoots one and she covers it up for her. She was there to protect her girls, and she doesn't even know that obviously it's going on with all the spying. So it's quite interesting, and I just have to say that the brothel itself, it's pretty amazing in terms of just the set design. Like, it's a really, like, some of the numbers, the songs, really well composed, and especially I love all the dance numbers that happen as well in the and I think she does a great job there. But it's it is, you're right, Marcy, it is all about power. I mean, that's one of the key themes of it, and I guess once again relating back to fascism and films around this time that dealt with power, particularly. I mean, for example, Salo was only a few years before this, and that dealt very much with a similar theme, and people seeing the fascism angle. Films like The Conformist and various films that dealt with just showing how ruthless these people were, and do not care to get anything, and to get, obviously, in order to get their power, especially with The Conformist, where he has to kill someone which he doesn't want to. So there's a lot of interesting themes going around in it. But I think the whole broth itself, and some of the lurid acts that go on, and we do see these in the various rooms. It is a sight to behold, but yeah, it's definitely got a lot going on. I'll say that there's
Yeah.
2.5 hour runtime. So,
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, so I think it's the director's cut goes well over 2 hours, and I think the original cut was well under that.
yes,
And they definitely changed everything. But when you see it in this format, like you understand kind of what it was going for. And yeah, women are not treated very well in the film, and I think that is very purposeful for
yeah,
this power display that we're seeing. But ultimately, that character's downfall comes from two women because
yeah,
he done fucked up.
yeah,
And yeah, I think what I always find quite fascinating with Tinto Brass films is the way everything is shot and framed. It's always very interesting. And here it's so grandiose, like it's so pristine, and
yeah.
like all the designs and the costumes when there are
Oh,
costumes,
beautiful.
it's really really well done. And an interesting bit of trivia that I've seen on the film is Ken Adam began working on this film right after working on Barry Lyndon, and he apparently said that he found working with Stanley Kubrick very suffocating, and he was very obsessive and attention to detail. But coming onto this, he was very happy, and just seemed like a completely different environment, weirdly enough, for a very it is quite a disturbing film in the end. So I found that fascinating. But I guess if you look at how everything is, like it is very, everything looks very pristine.
Yeah.
So you're going to see all that dick, all the bush, all the boobs, all the slaughtering a pig.
Oh,
Very, very full on.
yeah, and just comes out of nowhere. Some of that,
Yeah.
to break. Yeah,
Yeah. It is like, I think the pacing is like a little bit off with it, and it does kind of, I think it does muddle up a lot of things within itself. Like I think there is a really great film in there. I just don't think it was quite achieved fully. But I think, if I do end up watching it again, I think I'll probably even pick up more little things. But it is a weirdly fascinating film. It's just, it kind of is hard to, I guess, not talk about it, but I guess summarize it. And
yeah, because like I said, there's so much going on.
yeah, there
in
is
it,
a lot going on in this film. Well,
I think you're right. Maybe a tighter cut would definitely make it. Like I said, I see a great film in it, but unfortunately, just sometimes it tends to drag. And like I said, Tinto, his directing style is quite interesting. Like it's very much fly on the wall at times, with the camera kind of panning, like and you're just shaking a little, and then the zoom in shots, and how he directs is very free flowing. It's very hard to explain. But like I said, with the the guy that worked in Barry Lyndon, you can tell that this is a really classy production. It's got that beautiful sort of glowing lighting throughout it, which was present in Barry Lyndon. So it obviously did come across. So like I said, it's a great looking film visually. It's stunning, and that's the thing about Brass. Even his some of his other cheeky films and whatnot, that they're all good. Like he has got a nice detail. And I think before doing Salon Kitty, he did avant-garde type,
yeah.
sorry,
Avant-garde?
avant-garde, sorry, type art house
Yeah.
type films, and he also did a western, funny enough, like a really spaghetti western. So he has got an eye for detail. But yeah, I think with a bit of tighter editing and pacing, I think that's a problem with some of Tinto's films is maybe he gets final. I'm not too sure if he gets final cut. He obviously didn't on Caligula, but they tend to just drag a little bit. But yeah, I think all the elements are there in terms of because like I said, I've seen some Nazi exploitations and they look awful. They just visually look cheap, but this looks lavish and yeah, it actually looks good. And as I said, but the women themselves, like they're not treated particularly well. But I think maybe there's a point to express how they are treated by these Nazis and fascists and with power. Because like I said, Tinto in most of his films, like ones I've seen, the women, they'll say treated quite well, but they are put on a like they are the stars of of his films, the majority of his films, and they are quite empowering. Some Tinto Brass films, but not sure about this one, but
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's on purpose.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it is on purpose, and we do have a lot of focus on like Margarita and Kitty at times, and
Yes.
in the end, they like both these characters were pretty much there. Like, we are not going to be victims of this shit. And Kitty's almost like she doesn't want to be involved in any of this stuff, but she's kind of forced to take action because she was essentially used. And Margarita falls in love with one of the customers, and because he expresses to her, and there's the listening devices, that he was going to defect, like he gets killed. And that was like the last straw for her. She was all in on being part of the Nazi party, basically, and all of this happens, and she's questioning everything. And as she soon understands, I always forget the freaking character's name. Wallenberg basically just says, like, I don't give a shit about this, I just want power. And that's pretty much, that tells you everything you need to know. Like, they really did they really give a shit? No. They wanted power, and having power is invading countries, having control over people, putting people to death, all this stuff. So I think at the end of the day, there is a lot of interesting things to take from this and that it says, but I don't think it quite conveys it as well as it really could have.
No, and there's that great scene, where the guy, one of the customers, reveals, what did he say? Like, we hung him like a pig, or he was just saying like he was just a piece of shit, he's dead. And where she pulls out the gun and, like I said, just shoots him in the shower. Such a great scene. Yeah. And he runs in and cleans up the mess and says, "Oh, he shot himself." But I think it's that moment where she realizes this is bullshit. The whole Nazi thing's just fucked. And you're right, like I said, it's like it's still there is a lot of messaging in there about that, and funny enough, I still see it relevant today with what's happening around the world.
Absolutely. There's just to touch on relevant in the US at the moment, we see sort of like this medical exam, whatever it's meant to be, and they show a body of this is a person they think is an inferior to the white Aryan race. And then they wheel out a very, looks like she was ready to give birth, Aryan woman. And apparently she was trying to give herself like a 9-month abortion. And you see like this fetus in her. It's very graphic. It does not look all that realistic. My mind, I'm thinking, so this is what all these like anti-abortionists think happens at abortion clinics, because that's not it, mate. Not at all. And I feel like that scene was there for outrageous shock value. Like, you're seeing something absolutely ridiculous, but this is still a prime specimen. Like, it just shows you like what the hypocrisy of it all. Just the ridiculousness of it all. But at the same time, I'm thinking, so this is probably what people think getting an abortion is. No, it's not. But
coming out of a horror film that's going to be on a rusty old table.
It's like, no, I don't think someone's gonna. You don't walk into a clinic to just go. Yeah, I'm ready to give birth, but I don't want to. Let's just murder it. Like, that's not how it works.
No. I remember in the film, who did the girl? Sorry, did the girl want to keep it? I'm trying to remember, and he wanted to get. No, he wanted to keep it. I'm trying to remember. I'm on a mental blank. I remember she's going to have the abortion, and one of them, he's like, either she wants to get rid of it, or he wants to get rid of it. I can't remember the kid.
Because later on, not later on. Well, kind of. It was later on where they actually force one of the girls to get. They forced the abortion on her because she said she was just showing.
That's right. Yeah,
and she wanted to keep it, and they're like, "Well, no, this is not happening," and they just sent her off. I'm like, okay then.
Yeah, that's right. And
again, that's probably what people think going into an abortion clinic is like. If you want to keep it, no, they're gonna like forcibly just take it out of you. No, it's not how that works.
Hold you down this rusty, bloody table and rip it out.
But again, it showed that they didn't give a shit about anything.
No,
or
life.
Anyone.
No, nothing at all.
Yeah. So there's a lot of it's Salon Kitty is not an easy film to watch.
No. And going back earlier, look, those experiment rooms, like, it's. I know it is shocking, but I mean, Nazis did experiments, so as documented in history, so it's not too far from the truth, even though it seems really over the top.
Yeah, no, it's. I think it's very much sort of like based in what really happened, and if you find any historical accounts, you read stories, like things were a lot worse than this, and I think the Nazi exploitation kind of weird subgenre, a lot of the films don't really have anything to say other than just to be shocking for shocking's sake. But something like Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, that's the title of the first one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like that kind of actually has something to say. That's a fairly good film, and the atrocities you see in that, it's very graphic, it's very disturbing, and that shit probably very much happened. So I'd say, if you want to see Nazi exploitation for some reason, I would say, that one, this one are probably more in the lines of actually having something to say, being fairly decent.
Yeah.
Well, not just being absolutely just... what's the one you mentioned? The Gestapo's orgy or something?
Oh, Gestapo's last orgy, which is just like trash. Like,
it really is. It really is.
It's like it's pure exploitation. The other one, like I said, is Night Porter is quite highly regarded. Night Porter is interesting. Night Porter is about a relationship between ex-Nazi post-war and his prisoner, who was in one of the camps, and that's a really dark film. And it is put on a pedestal for being a sort of classy art house film. This is very similar. I mean, this is about a relationship between two characters, but once again, I think. I don't want to say more. It feels like it has a bit more heart. Salon Kitty. As weird as that sounds, but it's a bit more joyful. After seeing the Night Porter is just really bleak, really depressing. But Salon Kitty has a bit of. I don't say, it is entertaining at times. Salon Kitty.
It has musical numbers.
It's quite a entertaining film, but Night Porter is just, you're really for some bleak, depressing cinema. Check Salon Kitty is definitely somewhere in the middle. Like I said, it definitely works really well. But
So, what would you rate this one out of 5?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I was thinking about that today. I fit somewhere in the middle with this. I'm going to go 3, just because I think it, like I said, it has great moments and merits, but I think it's a little bit muddled and jumbled in its messaging and what it wants to be. And like I said, there is a little bit of issue with the pacing, but I like it. So I'd say 3, borderline 3.5 for me. I'm somewhere in the middle with this film.
Yeah, I think I'd give it 3. I've seen way too many penises in this movie out of 5. Definitely, it's somewhere in the middle, but an interesting film to discuss. That's for sure.
Yes.
We'll move along to the second of this very bizarre double feature.
Main course. Oh.
Just about. There's so much to say about this film. So, yes, Caligula from 1979, directed by Tinto Brass. The screenplay was written by Gore Vidal, and I think it's very unfortunate for everybody that one of the producers was Bob Guccione. More about that shortly. The plot synopsis from Letterboxd. What would you have done if you had been given absolute power of life and death over everybody else in the world? The perversion behind Imperial Rome, the epic story of Rome's mad emperor, all the details of his cruel, bizarre reign are revealed right here. His unholy sexual passion for his sister, his marriage to Rome's most infamous prostitute, his fiendishly inventive means of disposing of those who would oppose him, and more. Starring Malcolm McDowell, Teresa Ann Savoy. It's got John... I can never say his name. John
Gilgood.
Gilgood? Yeah, I can't pronounce it. I apologize. We also have Peter O'Toole, Guido Manari. We have Giancarlo Badesi. There's a lot of people in this cast. Helen Mirren. Yeah, I'm going to be here all day trying to read the cast, so I'll stop there.
There's a lot. It's an epic.
Yeah. And this is probably one of the most infamous films because so much behind the scenes making this film. So many disagreements with everybody. Like Gore Vidal had this script, and the way he kind of saw the character of Caligula was not how Tinto Brass saw the character. And then you have Bob Guccione just wanting to put pornography in there. Lolita is the weirdest mainstream. It's become one of the weirdest mainstream pornos with a plot line. Especially if you watch the longer version with all the added Bob Guccione stuff. It is porn.
Oh, it is.
With the story about Caligula. And the thing that I really just want to see like a proper edit of this film, because there are definitely scenes that are not in the right order. This is this very grandiose story of, whether it's true or not, whichever, it just interprets like what could have happened. And it definitely, when you watch it, it's fighting between whether he was just born like that or whether all this, knowing he would get all this power, was all consuming. It's a very fascinating mess in a way. But yes, I know you are a big fan of Caligula, and I don't know why I am also. But yes, I would love to hear your thoughts about Caligula.
Yeah, I've been fascinated with this film many years. When I first saw it, I knew of its notoriety, but it was technically banned in Australia, uncut. We uncut Australia. We have a weird thing with our rating board where they have a problem with sex and violence being mixed. This film doesn't do that. So I think once again, 15, maybe longer than that. I was very naughty. I went to Amazon and ordered the blue uncut DVD from the US. And I got it past customs, somehow slipped past customs, and I remember putting it on, and it was a Penthouse DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old Penthouse. And yeah, I fell in love with it immediately. I don't know what it was about. I think I'd never seen things so, at the time, I don't think I'd seen things so just shocking and sleazy and filthy and just, it really took me back. But I think it's, I've always loved the film, and I think it is a mess because of all the different edits and scenes that were slotted in by Guccione. But I think it's a wonderful mess, this film. And I think that the entertainment value, that's the thing I always say, is the biggest sin for a movie is to be boring. And I think Caligula is not boring.
It's absolutely not. No matter which version you watch, almost.
No. There's always, whether it's McDowell giving his a great performance, but at times canny performance. Whether it's the graphic sex scenes or the graphic violence or something ridiculous going on. So yeah, it's something that's always fascinated me, and just the history. Like you said, there's been so many different accounts and what happened, and obviously Gore Vidal, like you said, did write the screenplay, but he disowned it. It'd be interesting to see what because originally his version was planning so there's going to be more homosexuality in the screen. So actually meant to be, but obviously Guccione Penthouse is like, nah, it's not going to happen.
No,
So.
yeah, and that's the thing. Literally anybody else should have financed this movie. I mean, look, there still probably would have been problems because I don't think. God, I'm forgetting everyone's names now. I don't think Tinto Brass and Gore Vidal saw eye to eye on the foundation of the character. And this is from just trying to, just research as much as possible. And I apologize for my terrible speaking on this episode. Yeah, I'm trying to find out, because Vidal didn't think that absolute power corrupts absolutely, or the other way around.
Yes.
I can't remember. I'm trying to find it, but I'm not finding it. I'm trying to think.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I think it was Albert didn't, and that's where it clashed.
Yeah.
And like I said, it would have been interesting to see Vidal's version. Being such a prolific author. And I think originally it was called Gore Vidal's Caligula. That was the original name. Production. Yeah, there was that clash in themes between them.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating like sort of behind the scenes what was happened. And yeah, as you said, like the original script had a lot of homosexuality in there. There was only one heterosexual scene, which was Caligula and his sister, and he was like, no, that's not happening. And
which wasn't far off because Roman history. I mean, it was homosexuality was a part of it.
Nobody gave a shit back then.
No.
About any of this shit. Honestly, people fucked whatever they wanted to.
Yeah.
And I think actually Guccione saw Salon Kitty and wanted Tinto Brass to direct it, and they are actually very similar. The way, like that sort of grand presentation, it's very similar. It's shot very similar. The amount of clothing for both films is very optional. I'm trying to work out were there more like G-string thongs in this or Salon Kitty. I don't know. There's a lot of that. Malcolm McDowell's barely clothed through the whole film.
Yeah.
It's kind of surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, got a sheet on him, barely hanging on.
Yeah.
But you're right, they're very similar in terms of style and very stage-like, theatrical.
Very, yes. Like you could see it as a stage play kind of thing because that's how it's very set up, and I think that's very purposefully because in both films he's telling the story of something very grandiose and these over-the-top, fucked up characters. And like I would really like to see, like, I know there's probably several versions of this already, but kind of like have a comparison between what Tinto Brass's vision was and in a way what could have been more for Gore Vidal's vision as well. Because it's very interesting how differently they actually saw that central character. And it's so fascinating with all these performances. Like there's some fantastic actors in there. And I think Teresa Ann Savoy, like once again, almost steals the whole film from everybody else because she's just so good. She's so good in Salon Kitty, but I think she's even better here as Drusilla. Like she's the one person, I guess, that Caligula listens to in any way. And for her to kind of have that, almost that power over him, very fascinating. Like, it's just, the characterizations and everything, it's just, like, what is going on?
I know. You're right. No, he does listen to her, and because he thinks he is obviously a god.
He sees himself as a god. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. He control over everyone. He can do whatever he wants, and that's very much shown. Whether it's mashed potatoes or whatever, you see everything. But yes, you do. And but you're right. Just the cast, like my god, like how do they get this cast? And once again, from what I read, they originally went in expecting this was a Gore Vidal type classy art house film. That's what I was reading, and so they got Peter O'Toole on board, and apparently Peter O'Toole was a little bit high off his head. When he
I
was
don't
doing
blame him. I probably would have been too, to be fair.
Yes. But even though, like, just gives a great performance as Tiberius, just a really crepid, sort of insane character driven them, going off. And yes, you like I said, John Gielgud, like Sir John Gielgud, like, I mean, this is a knighted Shakespearean actor who's in. So yeah, just the cast is incredible, and don't get me wrong, I think everyone gives great performances, and it's like it's just not unfortunately, but like I said, it's just unfortunately we've got this chopped up mess that if we saw Tinto's original cut with how he originally planned, it would have been something more like like Salon Kitty, but obviously more on a bigger scale. So yeah, it's just a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see that Gore Vidal vision also.
Yes,
because the I guess the mythos behind Caligula, it just sounds, it's a very intriguing kind of history. So it makes sense. Like, yeah, let's make this very ambitious film, but it's just so derailed by whatever Bob Guccione was thinking. Like, I don't need to see close up penetration of anything in a movie for really no reason at all.
Lots of close-up blowjob shots.
There's a lot. There's a lot of like sex orgy scenes because it's ancient Rome, whatever. Like, yeah, that's expected. But it's way too much, and it's like, if I want to see that, I'll watch a porno. I don't want to watch a 2.5 hour like historical epic for that.
Well, that's the thing. You can tell which is obviously Tinto Brass's shot and what's Guccione, because even that end scene where they're on that ship and they're walking around, you can tell the sort of softcore stuff, and then boom, straight into blowjobs and fingers going everywhere, and but you're right, it's just unnecessary. Like it didn't need it at all. It would have worked even as a soft core. It would have worked very well. It need all the hardcore. That's what makes it so infamous and outrageous. Yeah, it's just the hard.
It is. It's that weird hardcore stuff that really, it just feels so unnecessary. It really didn't need to be there, and it's such an experience watching that whole film, because I remember when I think they released on VHS just the normal cut.
Yes,
and my mum rented it for me when I was, I don't know, 13 or 14 or something. And even then I was like, this movie is weird and outrageous. And I remember just watching it because I know originally it was not meant to start with Caligula and Drusilla frolicking around in their sheets. But yeah, you see this and it's like, oh, okay. The Caligula's just, hanging out with a pretty lady, and then it's like, oh, that's his sister. Oh, I don't feel very comfortable right now, and just gets worse from there.
Yes.
But then, having seen subsequent cuts of it, it's just, why did they do that to this movie? I don't need the blowjobs and the fingering and blah, blah, blah.
No.
It's honestly, it's hard enough watching, Malcolm McDowell as Caligula being like, well, I'm just going to invade this couple's wedding night, and I'm going to sexually assault the bride, and I'm going to sexually assault the groom with a fist. No, that's bad enough. You don't quite see it graphically, but you see enough of it, and it's not nice.
Yes.
And having that kind of, sexual violence mixed in with porn, not really that great.
No,
that way. Ugh.
A bit of a, she a virgin, and then a bit of a the old fisting. Well, thankfully you didn't. Thankfully, didn't see it go in. Thankfully, the fist. That would hold, but it wouldn't shock me because this film just goes places. Like you even see like urination, like real urination, pissing on a corpse. Like what? Like,
really, nothing is held back. Like you see a lot of fucked up shit in this movie. Again, is that the point? Is it meant to be fucked up? Because ancient Rome was fucked up.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
I don't know.
I don't. And that's the thing too. And it makes me wonder. And then you're always scratching your head, going, "Did Tinto did this, or was this Guccione? Like, who's because, like I said, maybe Brass is trying to say something, but did he direct those scenes? Like, it's really hard to tell. But you're right. Is it trying to say that Rome was just a debauchery, just fuck that place? Because there's just and like I said, there is also, like I said, not only the porn scenes, but there is also male on male scenes as well, which is quite surprising for a mainstream film. So it just kind of comes out of left field. But yes, which is it's got everything, this film. So
you see as much female everything as you see male everything.
Male,
it's like, okay.
Much like Salon Kitty,
yeah. You see what everyone had for lunch that day, basically.
Yeah. And so it's unbelievable. And that final epic orgy scene. Oh my, that's an epic.
Everything, and you see everything. It's like, do I really want to sit and be watching this though? I
normally want to see the cum shot, and
it's like, especially if you if you're like, oh hey, mom and dad, let's watch Caligula. Probably won't want to be doing that.
No, what's this historical epic?
It's just historical epic. There's a reason why I watched this by myself when I was 13 or 14. Let me tell you, we're not watching that with my parents. Like, no way.
They might be very sneaky.
Yeah, but
it's a film,
Yeah, it's such a bizarre, just outrageous film, and you're never going to see something like this again.
No, there's something costing, 23 million US back then for inflation. I don't think we'll ever see a studio or anyone do a film like this again. Like, no one would even.
I mean, it'd be so fascinating. Like, grab that, make Gore Vidal's script just because I want to see that. It'd be kind of fascinating. I've said that so many times already, but I'm like, no, I want that.
No, it is, because, like I said, he's just such an amazing author, prolific author, and really visionary, ahead of his time. I wonder if actually, so I was just having a quick look. It looks like it does exist, the script. It's out there, so
okay.
I have to go read of that.
Kind of want to read it, yeah. Just something very different, and but I think actually what I don't know if you, like I think I mentioned before, like I don't know if the film actually conveys like absolute power corrupts, blah blah blah. I feel like you kind of get, the characterization of Caligula is kind of like these two different things of like why he was like that. There's a lot of things, like there's the egotistical side, like because he was kind of, he's in this position where he can grab power. Like that's pretty much what happened. Back then. And he just pretty much made a mockery of everything. Didn't have any respect for the Senate or nothing. And a lot of that stuff I think people had known about, or rumors. I don't know. I'm not an expert on the real Caligula at all.
Well, you're right. It is a stuff of myth and legend. A lot of Caligula. Like, there's only so much documented. I remember in history, like, just going back to high school, I remember that teacher didn't really, like, someone brought up and they didn't really want to cover it because it's not too historically accurate. There is stuff, but it's not. It is the stuff legend. A lot of Caligula.
So it's really hard to
interpretation.
So anything you say, like, you don't know if that's going to be true or not, but I think sort of as, sort of like a fictional, historical, if you just look at sort of the character, not so much all the weird added crap, like it's an interesting kind of portrait of a character who really is consumed by their own ego of power. And everything that he does is him trying to show everybody, hey, I'm the one in charge. Because you definitely feel like this is somebody who feels like he has to compensate for something.
Yes.
He's very much overdoing it, and I think he's kind of see a little bit of that with the main sort of Nazi character in there as well. It feels like he wants power just to be powerful and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of ego. You can feel that ego in there, and he's definitely trying to compensate for something. And I feel like Caligula is very much similar in that way. So the films actually, they're really similar in the weirdest of ways. So actually watching them together is kind of a very weird. You're not going to want to look at vaginas, penises, or boobs for a while after that because there's just so much. But yeah, when you kind of look, beneath all of that stuff, you do find some very interesting, like characterizations, and especially with how, that Caligula relationship with Drusilla, but then his relationship with I can't remember Helen Mirren's character's name.
Yeah.
It is Cesona.
Sona, yes.
Yeah. And again, like the relationship with the character of Marco, Tiberius, Claudius. Yeah, so many. Like even if they don't have a lot of scenes, you understand what's happening with the characters, and it's almost like it doesn't matter who you are. If Caligula thinks you're a problem, he will dispose of you. And
I think just get rid of him.
Yeah.
No, I think from his upbringing too, because the Tiberius character, I think you're right. He wants that power because he's just been put down by Tiberius and others for so long, and especially that scene where he makes him dance. It's like dance, boy, dance, do a little dance. It's like he's and so to compensate, I guess, for all those years of being looked upon like that by the elders, he takes the reign to power, and I think just maybe the product of his environment that he grew up in as well. So and the madness obviously ensues, but it's interesting. Like I said, that watching him back to back, they both deal with power, both films, and it's literally as if they just walked off the set because of the crossover with the same actors and actresses. So it is a very similar, interesting double to watch them back to back because they has got something to say. Like I said, and once again, it's just like Salon Kitty, just a bit muddled in what it's trying to say. But if you look deep, there is Tinto is. I'm guessing, Tinto is definitely trying to say something because Tinto rewrote the script, so he's obviously trying to say a lot about power. So it is there, definitely is.
Yeah, and I think they're both very similar in the way that you kind of really have to. Yeah, they're so muddled as films, but I think Caligula is more muddled, and that wasn't Tinto's doing. That was Guccione's doing. If he was able to actually edit the film properly, we might have got somewhere. But I think the original intent was, there is definitely something to be said, and you kind of have to really look for it in the film because it doesn't flow the way it's supposed to flow. But it definitely has a lot to say with the specifically male characters with wanting that absolute power but again, like the female characters like Drusilla and Cesona, they are very prominent. Even though Cesona doesn't come in till later in the film, once she is there, like she, along with Drusilla, there's this understanding of who he is. Like they understand who this person is, and almost how they can use that to their own advantage as well. So it does have a lot of complex things going on, and interesting characterizations, and really trying to get down into kind of what makes this person act this way. But it's so lost in the editing and the reshuffling of things and just adding unnecessary pornography. But it is just this weirdly fascinating, insane mess of a film. That's it's become a very infamous one.
No, I think you're right there. The triangle between them, the love triangle, it's very interesting, and it shows a lot about the power dynamics between the three of them. And Donna, she wants something out of it too. She does. I guess she understands him as well, and she obviously, and I think Drusilla's much like him, and I guess that's why they sort of connected. So it's interesting that sort of that dynamic. But you're right, yeah, it's just unfortunately just muddled in there. But yeah, and just with like, you know, once again, there's some really amazing scenes, and you know, even the scene with you know, Caligula and Sasona obviously having their sort of romantic, interesting sex scene in the when he first picks her out, and then it just choppily edits to like heads being cut with that lawnmower thing. It's like, what's going on?
Yeah. And you know, there's bits of just greatness mixed in such a bizarre film. Like there are moments of just really, really good dialogue that's delivered so well. And then you'll get something else that just like, you're so engaged in like, you know, this dialogue and the performance, there's something will happen and you're like, oh, well, I'm lost now. That's just, I didn't need this or that, or this scene just doesn't flow on from this scene. And
abrupt cuts, like really abrupt, like really like tender moments or like emotional scenes, you know, particularly when, you know, Drusilla, you know, where he's out in the rain, you know, holding her, and then just abrupt cuts. What the hell just happened? So it's really, the editing is so choppy. You just have a random fucked up scene chucked in, and then it goes back to it. So it's all over. I guess that's what gives it its charm.
Yeah. And it almost feels like they just used the wrong kind of you know, footage from a scene because it might be out of focus, and it's like, that's not like,
it's the worst take.
Yeah, it'll be the worst take that just somehow made it in the film. And you know, in comparison to Salon Kitty, you don't have that. Like every frame in that film, it looked like it was, you know, very pristine, very precise with putting things where they are. Even if it's doesn't necessarily flow as well as it should, it doesn't feel like someone just put together a bunch of crap and thought it was a movie.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it also, like, that, once again, going back to visuals, because Salon Kitty is a beautiful film to look at, but Caligula, sets and costumes, it's really lavish. Like, it's a really, once again, it's a very stage-like, but it's a really beautiful looking film. And so, yeah, like I said, these amazing sets and designs, and it just gets wasted because of the, you know, the content and choppiness of it all.
Yeah, it is. It's like, you know, the costumes might mostly be see-through or barely there, but, you know, you see just how much went into it to look that well. There's the sets and, you know, you everything kind of having that ancient Roman feel, and it's kind of almost ruined by just not taking the proper care. And Guccione just, I don't fucking know. I think that guy needs like 50,000 punches in the face, but
I think so. Yeah, no, because he said he was making he's like making the Citizen Kane. That's how big he thought this film was going to be. Next Citizen Kane.
Yeah, it's the Citizen Kane of making a historical epic a porno.
Yes.
Whatever. I don't know why. A lot of these things are in this movie, but they are. But yeah, I do think it is very weirdly fascinating. You will not see another film like Caligula without a doubt. And yeah, like one of the things I do really love about the film is the poster art is so good. It's so iconic. There were so many great things like that to do with this film.
Yeah, even the opening with the coin, obviously that iconic coin. As you know, I'll tell a story. I was at a festival at a like sort of a collectibles fair, and someone had a mint condition Australian day bill poster of Caligula, and he wanted $5. So I'm like, yoink. So that will be going up on the wall eventually. I'll put up soon. But I was going to say just the opening with the coin and obviously the blood coming out of the eye. Like it's really beautiful piece of art. But the score as well, I was going to say the soundtrack's great. Like the score itself, really catchy, but there's so much to love about it. That's the thing in regards little elements like that.
Yeah. Like the opening with the coin and stuff and that music, like it's so perfect.
Epic.
It is. Epic. You kind of wish like so much of it lived up to that in a way, but it doesn't, or it does it in the wrong way. I don't quite know. But, Yeah, it's the weirdest mess of a movie. It really is. It really
Yeah,
is.
too many
Yeah,
books.
yeah. Too many cooks for sure. And I need to steal that poster because I want it.
Yes, yes, it's safely done.
Make sure I don't
Oh,
visit because I'm gonna steal it.
well, there is going to be another fair coming up soon, so
You
I'll
have
be
to
on the look
look. Yes.
any regular or maybe
Yes.
Salon Kitty ones.
Oh,
We'll see.
yes. Well, that's the thing. Like, both of the films have very striking art for it. Like, you look at the different posters and artwork for Salon Kitty. It's so striking.
Yeah,
It gets your attention 100%, and so does Caligula as well. It's very iconic and
yeah.
a really bizarre, funny story, and I don't know like how this ever happened. So, for those who know me, know that Bede, who I co-host with at the Super Network, is my best buddy, and I think it was maybe the first or second time we hung out together in person. I was showing him like all the DVD spots, and literally every store we walked into, I'd be accidentally standing in front of Caligula. So Caligula just became this weird inside joke, and I think I told him, or I don't know, I said he had to watch it, and I don't think he's quite recovered. So
The
don't,
energy field Caligula is everywhere you go.
yeah, I don't think Bede quite loves Caligula in the way we kind of weirdly do.
No,
It's
you need to embrace it.
yeah, it's a film you just need to embrace and deal with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one that you would have had to have. Once again, like I think if there's a certain love for people who saw it younger, oh, not younger, but earlier in life, compared to those seeing it now for the first time, I think it'll be a different mind frame. I think maybe seeing, like I said, myself seeing it as a teenager, probably had that different impact on me. So I don't know. It just depends when you saw it, I guess.
yeah, yeah, there's so much just interesting just little bits of what happened in the film and everything. Like apparently Malcolm McDowell wrote the nervous breakdown scene. Like all sorts of weird stuff, and how Maria Schneider was originally meant to play Drusilla, and things happened there. Gore Vidal didn't want credit for the film, and
Yeah. Oh, and Orson Welles was meant to be Tiberius originally.
yeah, it's weird. Like, and the name Proculus with what happens to him. Like, really, you're that obvious. He was meant to. Caligula was meant to basically rape him with his penis, but McDowell apparently didn't want to do it. So Tinto Brass said, "What about fisting?" How's that better? That's worse.
A little bit more classy, you know.
Oh God, it's a shocking scene, and
Yeah, something about Caligula is like something, like I said, a little bit campy. Like he may, I don't know. I got this vibe he may go sort of both ways. I'm not sure. Like he's just with his character. I don't know. Like I said, and I've seen other Caligula exploitation films that kind of go into that a bit more. But yeah, like very classy, some fisting. So there you go.
classy, weird fisting.
Yes.
There's just so much, like, Vidal, like I said, didn't agree with how Brass saw the film, and Malcolm McDowell having input, and Brass was pissed off because Guccione didn't want him to edit it, and blah blah blah. It's one of these bizarre things, and I think this movie took like 4 years to make.
Yeah.
It was the most expensive, more independent productions at the time. Like, this was meant to be like this big historical epic that turned into the weirdest, like I said, the weirdest pornography of all time.
Yeah, he thought Guccione thought he had like I said, Citizen Kane. He thought he had like the next wind on his hands or something. But no, audiences were not kind to it at all as well. I think it has grown in appreciation over the years. But this trash. This was panned when it came out. This was hated. But I can see why. I mean, this is not for mainstream audiences, but it was marketed towards mainstream. That's what kind of fascinates me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is not for everybody. It's for weirdos like me and you who watch anything and everything. And enjoy these weird things for what they are.
Exactly. And said that, back back in the day when this came out, they were targeting our parents as the audience. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, we were the ones going, let's go watch it. Let's watch Caligula.
it's historical epic. But no, like I said, there's some great, just so many great scenes in it. Like I said earlier, that decapitation lawnmower thing. Like, what is that thing? That didn't exist back then.
I
Like,
don't know. It is bizarre.
stuff like that,
It's
and
just so random and weird, right?
yeah, absolutely. Like this big lawnmower thing. I don't think they had that technology back then.
I don't think so, but there we go.
No, and like the wedding, the orgy, the cake as well, or bread, whatever that is.
The weird penis and vagina cake thing. Like, I totally get it, because back then they were obsessed with genitals. Like,
Yes.
apparently you would see like dicks on everything. So that makes perfect sense, but it's a really just bizarre, funny visual that's just right there.
It is. Yeah, it is. And that's the thing about this movie. Like I said, you can just pick out a random scene. Because like it's so out of order, so out of context, and just look at any scene, and you just there's not like I said, there's not a dull moment in this film. That's the beauty of it. So
It's really not, even if it's a scene you don't really want to be watching, aka fisting, non-consensual fisting. Yeah, it's not boring, because you're seeing something just shocking, and you're just like, oh, really? You're going there, movie? Okay. It's such a bizarre one.
I think Vidal, like they asked him about it. I think he said something. I'm just quoting something along the lines like he has no problem with sex in films, but he said he has a problem with filth.
Yeah.
So, sums it up.
It's it's a very filthy movie. It really is. Yeah, what is your rating out of 5 for Caligula?
Yeah, look, it's tough because but like I said, I enjoy watching it. I don't know if I'm just perverted, but I enjoy, I actually have fun with this film. So I'll rate it quite highly. I'm going to give it a 4. I honestly think it's up there for me, because every revisit, it's always fun. It's it's a messy trash masterpiece, and just like it becomes its own work of art in some sort of way. So it gets a high rating from me, but like I said, everyone is different, but I give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I'm probably giving it the same as Salon Kitty, with 3 the penis cakes out of 5. And I think that is the sort of the Guccione full pornography cut. I would probably say 3.5 without the penetration and blowjobs and stuff, because it just really slows the movie down, and that's not a movie you should be slowing down.
And this,
For sure.
yeah, like I said, I think you messed me, like the full-on lesbian scenes out of nowhere. Like where did this come from?
It's like, why is this in here, and why is it going for 3 hours? Oh gosh, it's just how it is in Caligula.
It is. I love it, and I hope one day. Look, and just a bit on the Caligula.org has covered quite a bit on the restoration attempts. They've been trying for years to restore it, but there's been roadblocks. They can't find the elements. But there are people actively searching for the original cut, and they're trying to restore it. But there's who knows, and Brass doesn't really want to talk about it, so it's a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably just it's probably a really full-on experience for everybody involved. But no one wants to touch it at this point. Oh.
No, unfortunately not. So, and I think there was a what I was reading, there's still a legal issues tied up with Penthouse. So a number of things. So like I said, one day hopefully we will get someone finds it and just releases it online or something. So
it'd be really good to see that. So hopefully, things can be found and sorted out. But thank you so much for joining me to talk about these 2 very controversial and bizarre historical, whatever you want to call it, fictionalized historical movies of Tinto Brass. It was very intriguing. There's probably a lot more we could say about both films, but we only have so many hours in the day.
There's just so much film, but I think we covered the best bits of them. So.
Yeah. I think I've said everything that I really wanted to say about them, I think. But yes, hopefully you will join me back on this podcast in the near future with another double feature, but this time it'll be of your choosing. So we won't reveal anything now, but we have that planned for maybe sometime later this year, so people can watch out for that as well. And if you have any interesting comments on either of these movies, definitely let us know. And John, where can people check out the podcast that you host?
Yes, so I'm involved with both Indicator Cast and Imprint Cast, which are both dedicated to labels. They're available on all sort of streaming services, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So just look up Indicator Cast or Imprint Cast. You'll find me and the usual gang just talking about all things physical media related. So you can find us out there.
Yeah, and I think if you look up Indicator Cast or Imprint Cast, you can find the Facebook pages and stuff for that as well.
Yes, correct. Yeah, we also are involved with the group, so feel free to come on our Facebook groups for Indicator fan page and the Imprint fan page. It's a good community. Marcy, I know you're part of it. A lot of people showing their collections, talking. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Both really good labels that are doing some really cool things. And maybe I was on both of them a few weeks ago. You can check that out too. Yeah. It was a lot of fun to join you for that. And yes, all things After Dark. Just look up After Dark with Super Marcey podcast on your podcast player. And if you want to see all the links, the easiest place to go is Linktree, which is linktr.ee/After Dark Network. And I'm available on Twitter at my personal account, which is Super Marcey, or you can find the After Dark Twitter if you want to follow me there as well. And I'm on Letterboxd at super_Marcey. And I do have a list that keeps track of all the films that have been covered so far for this podcast. So all very exciting and fun things. So yes, thank you once again for joining me for this. Hopefully the next time we do a podcast, we don't have like 20 billion hours of research, but we'll see. Maybe they'll have less dick. We'll to be determined.
Yes. No, very keen to be back. And yes, picking some films. So very excited to be covering because it's kind of my favorite genre is the erotic side of cinema. So yes,
the erotic and strange cinema. Always good fun, always good value. Well, at least it's good value. Maybe it's not necessarily fun, but
great value.
Yes, it's good value. Yes, once again, thank you, and thank you everybody for listening. And remember, what happens after dark stays after dark, especially if you're Caligula. Bye bye.
See ya.